I'm a visual artist, photographer, and also a music producer. I'm based in Chicago in the USA, and I've been in the creative industry for about 20 years now. So like a lot of these things, it was stumbled upon by accident, by me experimenting and playing with different cameras and different drones. I was doing a lot of drone photography, but I was also doing a lot of night photography. And it's the connection was made between using, rather than using a drone to shoot at night, I was using a camera to shoot a drone with a light on it to light the landscape. And so I felt that this was a great way to create a series of work, a body of work based on this aesthetic. So it allows me to do something a little bit different in the world of landscape photography. Everywhere, up until then, everywhere I could see was very familiar looking images, and I just wanted to do something which made the viewer stop and look a little bit closer and think, what is that? It looks different. It looks, how was the light made? So that's how I arrived at that. And so it's really been developing over the years since I began that process. It's a really long process of taking an idea from my imagination to releasing a project. It always begins with an idea, and the idea is always beginning as an idea in my head, which I then start thinking about in terms of sketching and drawing out how this idea might take shape. And then I begin thinking of how do I do this and what kind of techniques do I need to use to create that in a photograph. And then at the same time, I'm thinking about where can I do this and what kind of location can I shoot this in? And each location is different and can give a different voice to the idea. So it's quite an important part of the process. And then once that's done, I do all the practicalities or the pre-production. How am I going to get there? How many days it's going to take? What's the weather going to be like? So things like that. And then when I'm at location, I do the scouting and I do a lot of shooting. Once the shooting's done, I'm then back at home and I start on post-production. And post-production is basically where all of the pieces of the puzzle are put together in some kind of meaningful way in order to make the best art that I can possibly make. That's very much a kind of iterative process where I'm making something and I'm going back and reviewing it again each time, feeding back and basically honing the piece until I'm finished and happy with it. And then once that's done, I start thinking about releasing it to the public. And again, that's another phase which takes a lot of planning and thought. So photography is my third career. My first career was in industrial design. I worked as an industrial designer for a few years. But during that time, I was part-time in a band and we toured all over the world. And that's when I decided I was going to do music full-time, and I did that for the next 10 years. While I was traveling to tour with the band, I got interested in photography because it was a way of seeing the world and documenting the world in places that I was traveling to. So that became more and more of a passion project, up until the point I decided I was going to make photography into a full-time job, and I was going to do whatever I could in order to make a living from photography. That took a long time. It took a number of years of trying different things, and I had no idea how to do it. A lot of showing my work and a lot of posting on social media. And then, eventually I started getting work inquiries, and that really started happening in 2015, 2016. I think it was around 2017 where I could start making a living from my work. Having been a musician all my life, and having been a full-time musician for about 10 years, it's made me kind of understand the structure of music and the dynamic of music and how it works with visuals. And it made me realize that people have an innate sense of what sounds right in terms of music, like what's in time and what's in tune. If something is a little bit out, then people will sense that. Whereas with visuals, people don't have the same instinct. And so with a lot of my work, actually the music takes priority. And so, let's say there's a time structure that needs to be kept to, which that has meant that the video needs to be in time with the music. So I'm very much kind of working, going to the music and then going to the visuals and then going back to the music and doing it over and over again until I'm happy with the result. And so they're definitely, they're both as important as each other, but music really provides the framework to follow. Travel is my main motivation for photography. And as you know, I realized that I love travel when I was doing music. And so my photography is almost a way for me to continue traveling the world and continue seeing these new places and exploring new places. And that constantly feeds into my creative mindset, where I'm thinking about, I think the novelty of these places inspires me to create new visuals. So I think the more I travel and the more I see new places and the more I explore, the more inspiration I have for my visual art. There are basically two main projects, and the first one is Lux Noctis, which is the Latin name for light in the night. And this was the original concept of creating a series of work in the landscape shot at night under the light of the drone. But you didn't see the light of the drone. It was always out of frame or invisible. Aeroglyphs is an evolution of that idea, where I use long exposure photography to capture the flight path of the drone. So while the drone is flying, I'm taking a picture and I'm able to show a line or a circle flown by the drone. There have been many, many projects that have been difficult, but I think the one that I keep thinking about, I think it's the solar eclipse in Chile, in South America. I went to photograph an eclipse in the USA, and then I realized that I wanted to do the next one in Chile because it was very close to the horizon. I wanted to see how an eclipse looked next to the horizon. So I spent about 2 years figuring out from what location I was going to be photographing from, and also how I was going to get to that location the different routes I was going to take, because I was doing all of this online and doing this using Google Earth and researching remotely just to see if this was possible. And so it was quite stressful trying to figure out if any of this was possible. So eventually I assembled a team and we were able to go there. And we were really lucky to be able to find that the route going up there actually worked. So everything went really well. And we were able to get to a really good spot and take pictures of the eclipse. And so it was really an amazing feeling to be able to have planned all of that time and then to be at that time to capture the eclipse at that moment. So it was pretty amazing. I usually work for my personal projects by myself, either by myself or with an assistant, because that allows me to, when I'm alone, I feel a lot more free to create. Whereas when I'm surrounded by people, it feels a little bit different. However, when I'm doing certain kinds of client work that requires more production, I can take a crew with me. And those are usually projects which are, I'm there for many days. And so it requires a team of a lot of different members and a lot of different people to kind of help it happen, especially when there's a client or agency involved. I don't think they're hidden messages, but I've always felt that my work is about showing our planet, a planet which feels very familiar and looks very familiar, but under an unfamiliar light. And doing that enables me to show these places and to make people stop and look at them. And my aim is to make people think, about these places and how fragile these places and the fact that this is our planet and it's the only one that we have. I love collaborating with artists from different mediums because I feel that is, I think it's a better combination to create something which is greater than the sum of its parts. I think if I worked with another photographer, then we'd be working within the sphere of photography. Whereas if I worked with a 3D artist, then it would be a much bigger sphere. And I think the art has more, there's more opportunity to make more impactful art by crossing into different genres and experimenting and partnering with artists from different mediums. I think AI is very interesting. I have collaborated with an AI artist, and a project which I'm extremely proud of. And I think the best thing about AI is that it's a tool that can provide inspiration, because AI is non-human. And as humans, we base all of our creative decisions on ourselves, on our humanity. Being able to add in a non-human element, I think is a really interesting way of generating ideas and generating inspirations to inspire your own work. It's really tricky because this is the only thing I've wanted to do. There was no plan B, and as I've lived my life, I've gotten closer and closer to where I want to be, and where I am now is where I really want to be, and there's nothing else that I could imagine myself doing. I don't know, maybe being in nature, maybe working in a national park or something like that, or something to do with travel, I think. Just want to say thank you for having me. It's my first time in Japan, so I'm grateful for the opportunity to come and to experience Tokyo for a few days. And really happy to be able to speak to the creative community here.